Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday morning. Now, there is some royal news out there, but this video is going to focus on Omid Scobie and his new book, Endgame. Let's jump in and get there, shall we? Let's go. So, Omid is publishing his book, and essentially an article came out, and it's claiming 5 central complaints, and then a bunch of others on top of that, which I think are just as central. So we're going to look at the 5 complaints. We're going to debunk this book. This is almost a running joke at this point, okay? So let's look at the 5 main ones before we go on to the other ones. Okay, we're going to debunk this, like I said, one by one. So the first one was that King Charles told the royal staff to, quote, get rid of Prince Harry crisis meeting because he was, overworked. So here's what this is about. Apparently, Harry reached out and King Charles, somebody went up to King Charles and approached him and said, Harry wants to have a meeting with you. It was supposed to be a crisis meeting. And Charles said, no. I'm busy. Tell him I can't meet with him. Here's what I think was going on. 3 weeks later, The Spare was going to be published. And I think Charles did not want to meet with Harry until The Spare came out, because I think he had an inkling of what Harry had said and done in the book. Remember, Harry was warned, don't attack the family. Next up, Harry and Meghan's Frogmore eviction was encouraged by Princess Anne. Ooh, I hope that's true. Doesn't take a genius to figure this one out. Harry was warned not to attack the family. He attacked William, Catherine, their parenting style. He attacked Camilla. He said horrible things about Charles. And essentially, I think Anne went to Charles and said, you need to cut him off. And so he was told he had to give up the keys to Frogmore. As a reminder, Meghan had complained to people that the Frogmore was so small and it wasn't anything like the other houses the people had. She didn't like the UK. And this is the real thing that gets me. Harry tried to use emotional manipulation by saying, don't you want to see your grandchildren? How can you evict us? Hate to point this out, but they never took the children to the UK since the Queen died. The children had not been there even once. So saying, how are you going to see your grandchildren if you do that, was kind of a stupid thing to say, since he essentially had not allowed Charles or anybody else in the family to see the children anyway. We also found out later on he wasn't even paying rent, okay? But I agree with Naomi Skye. Total emotional manipulation, and the king didn't see his children prior to losing that house for how many years? Harry knew what he should and shouldn't say in the Spare, and he went there. These are called repercussions. The next bombshell, the third one, according to Omid Scobie, is that Harry was ready to forget the row with the family, of course, after he'd crapped all over them, and wanted to reconcile. Now, this book is claiming that they want to rekindle the relationship, and they're trying to keep the monarch, King Charles, up to date with the family. They send him pictures of the kids all the time. I don't believe that for a second. Here's what happened. Harry crapped on the family. Harry threatened the family. He said he had enough information for another book. And the family, he's broken trust with the family, and the family decided that as long as he's with Meghan, they've had enough. And they don't want to talk to him. Can't really blame them. And once again, Naomi Skye put their finger right on it. He's lost the war. He's desperate. He sees his life with Meghan outside of the UK as a fate worse than death, his social exile and financial ruin. Yep. All right, number 4, of course, they took aim at Princess Catherine. What else are they going to do? Catherine shudders and giggles every time she hears about Meghan. And he put in the book that they have not communicated since 2019. And yet he's claiming that every time Catherine hears about Meghan, she shudders and giggles. Here's my honest opinion of this. I don't believe it for a second. Catherine doesn't give 2 rips about Meghan. She barely knew her. She's focused on William and the children and the monarchy. She knows that Meghan's way beneath her. I don't think I don't think she thinks about her, much less talks about her. Not at all. But I agree with this Twitter user. These swipes at Catherine are taken by Meghan Markle through Omid Scobie. Because I think, really, who thinks that Catherine spends more time talking about Meghan than Meghan talking about Catherine? Who really believes that, guys? Really? I mean, let's be honest. Even Omid is saying in his book, apparently, that a close friend of the Sussexes are saying that. Oh, my God. Really? I agree with this Twitter user. This has got Meghan's name all over it because she's obviously obsessed with Catherine. She's trying to compete against her private life. And, they tried so hard to have a private life. Yeah, right. And finally, King Charles is afraid of Andrew's mental health because he's in tears over it. And, his mother was so much softer with him, blah, blah, blah. All right, the next story that came out was that Meghan never wants to step foot in England again because she never felt at home there. And also, now here's the best part, Omid Scobie is saying she's unwilling to dive back into the soap opera. Really? When Philip died, who sent a wreath? And then released to the media what was in the wreath. And released to the media that she had a hand calligraphy card on the wreath. Who created that soap opera? Their lives are the soap opera. With her constant leaks to the press, whether it be by somebody of her team, whether it be a friend of hers, whether it be Misa Harriman, who was part of that whole, Susan Hussey mess, whatever it is, whether it be Omid Scobie, who claims that he is not working for Harry and Meghan, which, of course, we know that he is. She's the soap opera. And now it's coming out why she really missed King Charles's coronation. Now remember, she told the world that her doctor told her that she couldn't travel because she was pregnant. And of course, now we know that that's a big fat lie. The reason that she wasn't going to the coronation was because her very young children, 2 and 4, who were too young to go to the event, were not included in the coronation. She wanted them included just like William's children. But remember, William's children are directly in line of succession. Hers aren't. I also believe that because she lied and got caught in those lies, and then she had to face the royal family, especially after the Queen died, I don't think she's very good with confrontation. She's good with running her mouth, but not confrontation. Okay, so the next thing that was in the book was about the lack of communication on the day after the Queen died. Remember, they went and did that walkabout? Apparently, the ride, which was about 150 seconds from their residences to the long walk, according to Omid, must have taken an eternity because there was no talking going on in the car, no communication. Tell me how Omid would know that, if that's true, unless Meghan told somebody to tell Omid. And let's not forget what happened at the end of this debacle. Catherine totally stared Meghan down. She took a step back and got very nervous. And then I think Catherine suddenly remembered where she was and was smiling. Let me show it to you again one more time, slow motion. Watch this. Yeah, she totally intimidated Meghan. Meghan deserved it, but okay. Now, there was no talking in the car. Could that be because they knew that Meghan was wired? We've already shown you these pictures in the past. They knew not to trust these two, that anything they said or did could have been recorded. The next thing that happened is that Omid said that William was unpredictable and Catherine was lazy. I mean, are you kidding? Now, although he did recognize, apparently in the article, that William is going to be a good king, he said that he's angry, he's reserved, and he's unpredictable. And of course, it was Harry and Meghan that brought fresh air into the palace, blah, blah, blah. He completely discounted all of Catherine's work for early childhood education. As a matter of fact, her first social media post, I think, says a lot. She pointed out that relationships, experiences, and surroundings in our early year have an extraordinary impact on the rest of our life. Yep. I love the way she says it without saying it. You know what I mean? Next up, Omid took a swipe at Queen Camilla, saying that after Piers Morgan dissed Meghan Markle, she called up Piers and thanked him. I sincerely doubt that that took place. I think Omid's upset because Piers was able to make a name for himself in a new show after what Meghan Markle did to him, and he's friends with Camilla. So Finding Freedom came out, and come to find out that Harry and Meghan absolutely had their hands all over the book, even though they claimed that they didn't. Okay, remember that. So after that, and then The Spare was published, he's claiming that Charles told people in the family, don't trust Harry, don't talk to Harry, okay, which I totally would understand. But now Omid is claiming that William kept him away from engagements for several months, thinking that I was Harry's emissary. You are Harry's emissary. Are you kidding? Oh my gosh. He's claiming that William hired a new head of communications who met with Omid and told him he wanted to make a clean sweep of the past, but there were times when he couldn't practice his profession because of what happened with Finding Freedom. Well, that's what happens when you use Harry to slam the royal family. And of course, we know that he's claiming now William is power hungry, etc., etc. Several people on Twitter had comments as to why Omid was kept away. Meghan's mole pointed out that he incited bullying and threats towards the Wales children. He did make fun of Prince Louis' shorts. He made fun of a child's clothing. This Twitter user pointed out that he was exposed as a liar and a fraud in court, and he no longer gets asked to contribute to the royal news, and he got sacked from Yahoo News. Yep. And this Twitter user pointed out that he's not an official royal reporter, and he's a proven liar, and it's also been proven he's in bed with 2 other liars. Yep. So this article came out in The Sun Saturday morning, and in it now, Omid is claiming that there are 2 royal racists in the family household, is what they're saying. Now, remember, when they went on the Oprah show, their stories were completely different. Meghan said there were multiple conversations about what color Archie's skin would be. Harry said that there was one conversation that happened before they were married and before there was even an Archie. Remember now, Meghan refused to name the royal racist and instead threw a blanket over the whole family. Who it is? Who is it? Who is it? Well, Omid just did the same thing, saying that because of laws in the UK, he's not allowed to release the name of the person. So he just did the exact same thing. I would be remiss if I didn't remind you what was said on the Oprah show. Here you go.
Aware.
Racism, really. I mean, it changed the risk level. And if a member of his family will comfortably say, we've all had to deal with things that are rude. Rude and racist are not the same. So growing up as a woman of color, as a little girl of color, I know how important representation is.
And the specifics around her race?
Because this was different,
It's different because of the race?
You have the first member of color in this family not being titled in the same way that other grandchildren would be.
What I was seeing was history repeating itself, but more perhaps, or definitely far more dangerous, because then you add race in.
Concerns and conversations about how dark his skin might be when he's born.
So for 2 years, Harry and Meghan allowed everybody to think the royals were racist. They could have corrected the narrative, but they didn't. And I think they realized they went too far because then Charles became king. And so they tried to dial back on what they said. Watch this.
In the Oprah interview, you accuse members of your family of racism. You don't even...
No, we didn't. The British press said that.
Right.
Did Meghan ever mention that they were racist?
She said there were troubling comments about
there was concern about his skin colour.
Right. Wouldn't you describe that as essentially racist?
I wouldn't.
So they tried to make nicey-nicey with the family, roll back on their allegations. They called it unconscious bias, and the family had none of it. I agree with this person. This is getting so old. How much longer are we going to have to hear? Now, here we go. The unnamed royal racist. Now, remember, I just told you how Meghan claimed during Oprah that there were multiple conversations about, Archie's skin tone, and Harry said that there was one conversation before the baby was born. Well, according to this article, Meghan wrote to the king and named the 2 people that were in this conversation. Here's my thought process. First of all, we don't even know if these letters really exist, or she might have written something and didn't really send it. But she leaked her letter, if it exists, to Omid Scobie. How did that happen if she did not collude in this book? And isn't that why she sued a newspaper? Because a letter she wrote to her father was leaked? But apparently, if she leaks a letter she wrote, that's allowed for her to leak her own letter. So obviously, she colluded on this book if the letter really does exist. These are the leaks. I mean, this is almost becoming a joke. Now, she did claim in 2021 that she wrote King Charles a personal letter about unconscious bias, which of course she released that information to People magazine. But I say again, just because she might have written a letter doesn't mean that she sent it or that Charles read it or even responded. I mean, it's obvious Harry and Meghan wanted to come back. Charles said no, and this is their retribution. Now, they've already distanced themselves. Their close sources to them say they had nothing to do with the book, but they have not come out and made a statement on their own. Now, I've shown you this before, but I'm going to show it again. This is the publisher's note that's in the back of the book, and it says that he interviewed current and former palace staff, that's James Holt, who works for them, trusted friends, that would be like Marcus Anderson, and even family members themselves. Well, the only family member that they could possibly interview is Doria. I mean, how hard would it be for Meghan to go to her good friend Marcus Anderson and say, Marcus, would you do me a favor and make sure you say something that I wrote letters to, the king? And Mom, it's really important that you say this. And, Mr. Holt, if you want to continue to work with us, I'm going to need you to make sure that Omid knows this. Get it? The timing of this book, released the day after the King's 75th birthday, that was also planned by Prince Harry with Omid Scobie. Now, Omid got upset and put up a tweet saying that it's not Harry and Meghan's book and he's not friends with Meghan, blah, 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 which we all know is untrue. No different than when he swore in court and Meghan swore in court that they had nothing to do with finding freedom, and come to find out that was a lie. Remember, Harry wrote an email. We have to be able to say we have nothing to do with it. I mean, I think Omid is being used to spew Harry and Meghan's hatred. His book Endgame should probably be about him, because I think this is the end. The book is not selling well. It's not running off the charts like Finding Freedom did, which caused Omid to put out another tweet saying that if you're reading coverage about what's in Endgame, read the book, because bad translations and snippets without context. This is the same thing he said about Finding Freedom when the snippets came out, and we all knew exactly what was in that book. For those of you who are unaware, Omid already gave an interview to a Paris magazine. The royal family isn't talking to them, so they're trying to provoke a response, but I don't think it's going to be the one they're expecting. What it really comes down to is the royal family doesn't trust Harry and Meghan anymore, doesn't want them back, isn't going to have anything to do with them. And once again, this book paints them in the perpetual victimhood after everything they did to the Queen. They're not going to be able to fix it. It's over for them, but I don't think they want to accept that. So, they'll just keep throwing stuff at the wall until it sticks. I mean, guys, Omid totally works for them. We know this. So I heard about this on Twitter, and I'm going to quote it because I think it's perfect. There is no appetite for what Harry and Meghan are trying to sell anymore. You can't just be royals in the United States. Only work an hour a week, only give out money that other people give to you to put out, make deals that are failing right and left, and expect people to universally love you, especially when all you do is paint yourself as a victim. Yep. And before we go, I have to point out one more thing, you guys. She has been out of the royal family longer than she was in. She was in for 2 years. 2 years. All right, you guys, don't forget to hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. If you've already done that, double check, make sure you're still subscribed. I want those comments. Oh my God, these are going to be good. Make them good. If you've donated to my coffee fund, thank you so much. And as always, you guys, have a great day.